Today's episode is presented by Early Bird. Early Bird is the simplest way for parents, families, and friends to collectively invest in a child's financial future, starting at the earliest age. Early Bird's mobile app empowers parents and families to start saving for their child's financial future in a matter of minutes, while activating a child's broader community to gift contributions on, birthdays, holidays, any occasion. Realistically, as a parent and somebody who has had to deal with having a family-funded child issue, it's never too early to start saving. And realistically, this is a great idea because you can, instead of saying, oh, well, here's $5 in cash in your birthday card, little Johnny, you can actually put the money away and invest it. And maybe when it's time for them to go to college or to go out and get out on their own if they're not going to go to college, or if you need bail money, I don't know how your kid's going to turn out. The point is, it's never too early to start developing financial literacy. I wish somebody would have taken me off to the side when I was a young parent and said, put away money now for your kid's future. You won't regret it. We're teaming up with Early Bird to give our listeners a free $15 investment to gift to a child you love. Simply go to partners.getearlybird.io/podcast, or to make it easier, click the link in the show notes, download the app, set up your account today. Early Bird. Build the nest and invest in the children you love. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. We're going to start out with a couple little maintenance things here today. First off, if you are listening to the show, I'm going to assume that you are following me on at least one of the social media platforms. I recently put out a link to a brief listener engagement survey, I guess we'll call it. If you could it takes literally less than 2 minutes to fill out. If you get a chance, if you could just fill that in for me, I would appreciate it. And the second thing I want to talk about real briefly is the fact that we are creeping up on the 1-year anniversary of the show's first episode. Got a little over a month left to go. Honestly, the fact that we've made it this far kind of surprises me, that I haven't gotten fed up with it or petered off or just run out of gas. But it has gotten me thinking about how much redundancy I've actually felt going back, looking at things in the past, and as I was trying to find my stride and get into a regular rhythm of things. And it's got me thinking, realistically, it's not that I'm having trouble getting my stride or finding things where it's not repetitive. The problem is the same dumb shit keeps happening, and it still pisses me off. It pissed me off a year ago. It's going to piss me off a year from now. We need to do better. We need to be better. People need to quit being so shitty. It really shouldn't be that fucking complicated. I'm still me. I'm still going to live my life by the principles of you do you as long as you're not bothering anybody else. As long as you're not hurting anybody else. As long as you treat me decently, I'll treat you decently. I don't really like getting drawn into other people's bullshit, other people's drama, other people's bad decisions, other people's shitty problems. It's generally frustrating to me, and I'm looking at the way the world is these days, and it's really, if anything, it's gotten worse. And a lot of the shit that is coming to light right now in this country, and the way things are going on in the world, and the way it's being handled by the powers that be, is just like further driving home the point that these assholes should not be the power. And I know I'm probably on a watch list somewhere for some petty insignificant, like, this guy has 12 people that listen to him bitch about things constantly, so we need to keep an eye on him. Yeah, I doubt it. I really don't think I'm impacting anybody at this point, but I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to keep saying what I got to say. And last week, I addressed the issue with what was going on in Cuba, and it is still happening. A lot of the coverage is gone because the government has done what dictatorships do and locked down the country. The power's out, the internet's off, the water's turned off. People are dying every fucking day. We have the different factions in this country who have taken their different stances, which at this point nobody should be surprised. We've got bipartisanship politicians. Again, a lot of motherfuckers that are too old to be telling the world how it needs to be run. They should be somewhere living out their golden years, not bothering anybody and not affecting anybody. But since they're the ones that in the seat and they got to do what they got to do to keep things going, they are, calling for action, calling for change. We have organizations in this country that are trying to unseat the way things are, that are constantly trying to stir shit up, that are saying, oh no, we need to leave the Cuban government alone. The Cuban government has literally run the country into the ground, has decimated the lives of these people, and there are assholes in this country saying, leave them be, they're fine, they're doing things, blah, 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 we need to not meddle. Now, while I'm all for the general concept that the U.S. needs to stay out of other fucking countries' business, this is like destructive policies and heinous treatment of human life on a scale that needs to be addressed. And if you're endorsing what they're doing, you're an asshole. But realistically, I don't want to rehash the exact same thing I talked about last week, other than to say it's still going on. Don't let it slip from your mind because this country has the attention span of a fucking goldfish. Now, the next thing that is really kind of chafing my ass kind of ties back into the whole this country has the attention span of a goldfish. And the most vocal proponents of stirring shit up in the name of trying to quote-unquote make a change are completely silent at the moment because they got what they want, and some of the issues that are coming to light now work against their ends, their goals, their dictates. And I generally try to avoid straying into tinfoil hat territory. I don't like going into things that, the sad fact of the matter is conspiracy theory shit has been being proven right so much lately where it really makes you wonder how much of it is actually going on. Is it really a conspiracy theory when it pans out to be the truth? And so, maybe we shouldn't necessarily discount the tinfoil hat guys quite so quickly. But there has been, and it's been reported by both sides at this point, just with a different spin. The right is saying, oh my God, we told you so. And the left is saying, well, we can't really explain how this happened. And there has been evidence of what boils down to voter fraud. Now, some sides are trying to spin it as a clerical error or a mistake, but at the end of the day, there has been the audits in Arizona, the audits in Georgia are showing that votes were counted multiple times, giving extra votes to people that should not have received them. And until a full audit is actually completed, I'm not willing to call it on either side because, frankly, I think they're all assholes and none of them need to be in power. But the fact of the matter is, Arizona is showing that there are ballots that they have no record for them being in transit. There's no evidence of them having ever been mailed that are mail-in ballots that somehow got counted. There has been evidence of dead people voting in Arizona. And this is not conspiracy theory stuff anymore. This is verified facts. And the outcry, well, there is some outcry, but it's not nearly what it should be to find out there are things going on at this level, and there is concrete proof. Regardless of what side you're on this particular issue, regardless of which party you roll with, regardless of which way your policies and your politics lean, you should be concerned as fuck that this is happening. This is interference in our lives. This is manipulation writ large. This is the kind of thing where we should be seeing this as a unified thing of what is wrong with this fucking process. But instead of seeing it as what it is and it's how it's an issue that we're all getting fucked, people are still trying to use it to be divided and point to the other side and blame each other. No, we're all getting jobbed here. It's not us versus each other. It should be us versus them. But continuing to kick along and maintaining the status quo only benefits the people that are currently in seats of power. Real change does not come from repeatedly doing the same shit. Real change comes by going in a different direction, taking a different tack, taking a different bent. So how about instead of blaming each other and the left pointing at the right pointing at the left, how about we all take 30 seconds to sit back and realize that this is fucked? We don't need to blame anybody other than the people that are in power. It's not about left. It's not about right anymore. It's about the power versus the people. And realistically, until we all kind of wake up and realize that's what it is. We are all people. We are all human beings. All this other shit, every other thing that somebody comes out there and points to and says, this is why we're different, this is why we have to be separate, is fucking stupid. You're feeding into the same bullshit that is out there. At the end of the day, we're all flesh and blood. We're all human beings. We all have the same basic wants and needs. And we all have the same right to have those basic wants and needs satisfied. Now, that doesn't mean we're all going to get the same results out of life, because we are not all equipped the same. We don't all have the same skill sets. We don't all have the same capabilities. But we should all have the same opportunities, regardless of any factors that we don't have a control over. Now, if you're not willing to go out and work for what you want, and if you're not willing to go out and put in the effort, no, you're not entitled to shit, because you still have the opportunity. Your failure to produce is not anyone else's fault. It's not the world's fault. It's not the country's fault. It's not the government's fault. Get off your ass and do something. But you should have the opportunity. By no means do I think everyone is entitled to everything they want. I think they are entitled to the opportunity to go get it. And that's it. And as long as we are focused on all the other bullshit, we forget about that. It's not about everyone getting the same results. It's not everyone having the same things, because that's not the way the world works. It never has been. It never will be. There is no perfect equality where everyone's going to have the same thing, and anybody that tries to tell you that is full of shit. They are pushing an agenda, and they are benefiting somehow more so than you will ever be by following their stances. And with that being said, we're going to kind of segue into something else that I came across as I was trudging through the cesspool that is the internet these days, just looking for things to distract myself and things for me to look at and think about, and quite possibly, subject matter for the show. And I've been working on some doozies, and I've decided that I should really probably start doing less off-the-cuff stuff and maybe actually doing a little bit of research. The problem with doing a little bit of research is when I find something that pisses me off, and then I deep dive into researching stuff that pisses me off, I just keep getting madder, and it compounds, and I find these veins of stupidity running through the internet and see the amount of traction some of these just cockamamie bullshit concepts are picking up. And I see why the world is going down the tubes faster than you can fucking imagine. The amount of self-delusion I see in some of these people is genuinely disconcerting, because it shows why the world is so fucked up. It shows how easily some people are manipulated, because they get so passionate about such stupid fucking petty bullshit, or else it's so completely self-interested and self-satisfying that it's, I want this, it's important to me, it's significant to me, I'm butthurt over this, and the rest of the fucking world is wrong for not worrying about my feelings and not coddling my situation and not telling me I'm a beautiful special snowflake or whatever the fuck it is these people are thinking. But in the interest of trying to put out a good and entertaining show for everybody, and maybe hopefully reach out and connect with some people and keep growing and developing my product here, my thing, my therapy, my whatever you want to refer to this as, and maybe provide you guys with something that's worthy of being listened to. I did this. I went and I started looking on this thing, and I came across something that at first glance seemed innocent enough, and I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. I might be able to get on board with this. Until I started reading some of this lady's material, and I'm not going to give her credence or give her a shout-out or say anything about her, any identifying traits, because I don't want more people going to her and finding her and making her think she's somehow valid, because I realized very quickly what an annoying sack of shit this entitled bitch is. And I'm going to get into this because and this was 2 weeks ago at this point, but I'm still irritated about it and I'm still annoyed. And as I've looked into it more, I've actually gotten more annoyed because I've realized this is an entire movement. It's not just one whack job on the internet writing stupid shit. It is a whole bunch of whack jobs writing very similar stupid shit.
Podcast recommendations, you ask? Brian Wayne here, co-curator of The Apocalypse. And I know that sounds gnarly. That's because it is gnarly, man. The Apocalypse. What is The Apocalypse? The Apocalypse is a culmination of the gnarliest podcast, independent podcast the internet has to offer. So instead of trying to go to Twitter the next time you need a new podcast to listen to and try to get Twitter famous, podcast recommendations, please. Just think The Apocalypse, man. And it's ironic because The Apocalypse is only the beginning. It's only the beginning. Just go to podchaser.com. It's in the top lists. The top lists in the whole world. So whether you're looking for true crime, sports, role-playing, I don't know, anything. Think of a podcast. It's on The Apocalypse. It's like the apocalypse with a D. And do not forget to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter as well. Once again, that is The Apocalypse. If you're looking for a podcast recommendation, The Apocalypse is sure to have something for you.
And this may bend some people out of shape, but all I ask is what I always ask when I say something that may piss you off. Just hear me out, okay? I know nowadays that's not a real popular thing to do. It's much more popular to scratch the surface and then get all bent out of shape and start trying to cancel people. But, if you want to cancel me, fuck you. Come for me. Get at me. If you've got enough balls to talk shit about me, talk shit to me, because otherwise you're irrelevant and I don't care what you think. So, the thing I came across is this woman was a self-proclaimed fat advocate. Now, before anybody decides to get all bent out of shape that I'm going to badmouth fat advocacy, and believe me, I am going to badmouth it, I am not opposed to body positivity or acceptance. I am not trying to say any discriminatory acts towards people of a non-standard size are acceptable. I am not in any way, shape, or form endorsing treating people like shit based on their physical appearance, because that is petty and fucking stupid. And I totally understand that there are legitimate medical reasons why people might be overweight. I have had some medical complications myself that put extra pounds on me. I understand about body dysmorphia. I understand about eating disorders. And people that have those legitimate concerns have nothing but my sympathy and my hope that they get the help they need to address their issues. If you have a medical issue, I hope your doctor can fix it. If you have a eating disorder, I hope you can get the help you need to get through that. I really do. These are not the people I'm talking about. What I am talking about is something that, like I said, originally I thought it was going to be something where I was going to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm a big dude. I can totally get behind the idea that we need to make it where treating fat people like shit is not cool. But on the other side of that coin, I take a certain extent of responsibility for my size. I know that I eat more than I should for the amount of activity I perform. I understand that my caloric intake far outweighs my caloric usage. Therefore, my body goes into storage mode, stores all this shit. And a basic physiological thing is, once your body gets used to being a certain size, it gets really hard to stop being that size because your body thinks that is what it needs to do. It's an evolutionary throwback. We store the calories for when we have a calorie deficit, so we have something to feed off of in case of emergency. Once you get to a certain size, your body thinks that's the size it's supposed to be, and trying to change that is hard. It's a lot of hard goddamn work. And I personally don't think you should necessarily have to feel like you have to do that unless you want to. I don't think we should be able to have these social pressures that say, well, you have to do this because if you don't, you're disgusting. Because that's not right either. It's not right to say somebody's physical shape is their defining characteristic. That doesn't address how they are as a person. It doesn't address any of the relevant shit that we should be looking at in terms of what makes a person worthy or not worthy, what makes a person good, what makes a person a decent human being. And so I got into this thinking I was going to be like, all right, something I can get behind. Big people unite. Fucking A. And then I started reading essays written by people that are these self-proclaimed fat advocates and the policies behind fat advocacy and what these people seem to think this means. And I realized these are some of the most whining, self-serving, stupid motherfuckers I've ever come across. And that's saying something. It really is. It's saying things like your doctor is shaming you because he's telling you that you are putting yourself into medical jeopardy. That's not being discriminated against. You're not being discriminated against if a health professional tells you that your heart cannot handle your size. If you're carrying around a few extra pounds and someone tries to give you shit for it, they're a rotten person. If you are carrying around so much extra body weight that your internal organs are having problems functioning and your doctor tries to tell you about it, that's not being discriminated against. You're not being treated unfairly. A medical professional is telling you a simple fact of the matter. Your body cannot deal with your size. You do something to adjust it or your shit is going to shut down. I know this because I have had a similar conversation with my doctors, saying if you do not do something about your weight, you are not going to make it to see your grandkids. And to me, that's a significant enough motivation. I want to be around. I want to see if I have grandkids. I want to get to meet them. I want to get to play with them. I want to be able to run with them and have fun with them. So I'm doing something about my weight. Now, I'm not doing that out of any societal pressure. That's a personal choice. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not looking for somebody to own up and say it's okay and the doctor's wrong for telling me I'm going to die young if I don't do something. Because you know what? He's not wrong. Now, does that mean I'm going to let, some random asshole at a restaurant say something to me? No. I don't need somebody else making it illegal for someone to tell me I'm overweight. I don't need a law saying that you're not allowed to butt into my business because I'm enough of an adult where if you say something to me and I think you're out of line, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. I don't need anyone else's permission or justification to do it. I'm going to tell you to mind your fucking business and move along before you get fucking hurt. Whether that be emotionally or a swift kick in the crotch. I mean, I tend to tailor my responses to the circumstances at hand. But there are people that are legitimately out there trying to advocate for legislation to make things like that, a misdemeanor, where they can seek some sort of restitution. There are people out there trying to sue companies for not accommodating their issues. And you have the right to vote with your dollar. That's what I've always said. If you have a problem with a company's policy, don't patronize that company. But if you have a problem because you have to pay a few extra bucks to buy a shirt because you're wearing a 5X and you somehow think you should have it where the 5X costs the same as a medium? And I kid you not, this is not a random example. This is an article I read where this woman wrote a paper and an opinion piece on how she was being discriminated against because her clothes cost more than the term is straight size, okay? I don't even want to get started on how much that bothers me. And people are claiming sizeism, and it's a discrimination because straight size people don't have to pay this extra money, and they get this and they get that. And the problem with that is, you know why bigger clothes cost more money? It's because there's more material involved in making them, you simple-minded fucks. It's not you're not paying a fat tax. You're paying for what you're using. That is a fair use cost. Tough shit. It's not discrimination. You're not being punished for your size. You are being required to pay for what you're using. Fucking get over yourself. And when you are of a certain size, the simple fact of the matter is, You should not be entitled, and again, these are not random examples. These are things I read when I was doing my research for this, which is one of the reasons why I don't do research. It's going to give me a friggin' ulcer. If you have something in a medical condition where your doctor was unable to diagnose it till it became a critical thing, where it got past a certain point, because your size prevented you from being able to be diagnosed, whether it be a lump that was malignant and got missed because it was not blatantly obvious because of your size, or because you did not fit into the machinery to get an MRI and something was missed. You should not have the right to sue your doctor over that. I think there's way too many medical malpractice lawsuits already that are based on nothing and throwing the whole I was discriminated against because of my size because you could not fit into a piece of equipment to be diagnosed. That's not malpractice. That's not something that your doctor has to be held accountable for because you couldn't fit into a piece of machinery or you were too fat to notice a tumor growing in the side of your neck. Again, I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm not trying to bring anybody down. I'm trying to inject a dose of reality here. There are certain things where it comes to you just gotta fucking own up to it. I'm not saying that, John Q. Public on the street should be giving, larger sized people shit for their size. I don't think it's anybody's fucking business to say things like that to people, to give them, people are gonna stare, people are gonna look, because people are fucking stupid, people are shitty. It's a sad state of affairs, but it is what it is. Does that mean you should be able to sue everybody who makes you feel uncomfortable because of the end result of your lifestyle choices? No, it doesn't. And if you have a legitimate medical concern that is creating those things, yeah, I understand. I sympathize. Like I said, I was there for myself for a while. Without going into too much detail, there were certain medical things where I was in the gym 5 days a week, literally in the gym 5 days a week, doing cardio, lifting weights, doing what I was trying to get in shape and trying to get healthy. Not for anybody's satisfaction other than my own. I like lifting weights. I've liked it since I was young. It's something I enjoy doing. I like feeling strong. It's not a societal pressure thing. It's a personal choice. But contrary to what you would think would happen when you're doing an hour of cardio and working out 5 days a week, I was putting on weight literally every day. I'm still not entirely sure why. The reason behind what was happening is completely unclear to me, but my internal organs, my chest cavity around my heart and my lungs was filling up with fluid, and that was part of the problem. And I don't know why. They've run at least dozens of tests, if not more, and we don't exactly know why my body decided to start being stupid, but we found something that would remedy it. I've got pills I get to take now probably every day for the rest of my life to keep the fluids from surrounding my internal organs and gradually crushing me to death and making it hard to breathe and suffocating me and making my heart strain extra hard because it's enclosed in a fluid sac for some fucking reason. But I'm still a big dude. I've still got a lot of work to do to get rid of all that extra weight so I can get back to being healthy. I'm not doing it because I'm worried of what society thinks. I'm not worried about what anybody thinks by looking at me. I don't give a fuck. Your opinions are irrelevant when it comes to how I feel about myself. I know I'm awesome. But like I said, I want to be here to see my grandkids. I want to see the future. I want to see where the world's going. There's a lot of cool shit on the horizon. I read an article recently that they have developed the first prototype ion drive vehicle. It's a small glider thing. It's like 6 feet across. It's not by any means big enough to carry a person, but there are no moving parts, no fuel cells, no nothing. It's an ionization drive. It is amazing in concept. It's a Star Trek car, and they've started the testing on it. And in my lifetime, this could conceivably be a fucking thing. Hover cars that don't require gas. What a fucking concept, huh? I want to be around to see that shit. I want to see what happens. So I'm going to do what I got to do to get into a condition where I am going to be here for that, where I'm going to be healthy, where I'm not going to shut down because of my own fucking hubris. So that's really what got me bent out of shape, was looking at just the entitlement and the stupidity behind this mindset. I'm all for John Q. Public minding their own fucking business. I'm all for telling somebody to mind their own fucking business. If you're in a position where somebody's giving you shit because of your size, you have every right in the world to tell them to go fuck off. However, you need to understand the difference between getting your feelings hurt and discrimination. And the fact that you have to make certain accommodations in your life because of decisions you have made and your lifestyle choices that have led you to those circumstances. Like, as a bigger guy, I always feel a little better if I can go into some place, whether it be an office or the waiting room at the doctor's office or a restaurant, and as long as I'm not trying to get into a booth at the restaurant, because frankly those tables are usually anchored to the ground and they don't move to accommodate me to get into a booth, so I ask for a table. And if I'm in a waiting room, hopefully the chairs don't all have armrests, because I'm a big dude and I don't want a chair stuck to my ass when I stand up. And it's happened. It has happened as recently as last week. So these are not random statements either. These are my personal experiences. But I'm also aware that to a certain extent that is my issue. That's not the world's issue. The world does not have to accommodate me. It's nice when it happens. I appreciate when there's a bigger chair or a chair without arms on it. But I'm not going to try and sue somebody to tell them they have to accommodate my big ass. I'm just going to appreciate it when it does happen. And the thing I keep coming back to, or most significantly in my ire with this whole movement of fat advocacy, I'm all for body positivity. I'm all for if you're in a healthy place, your size should not really be a fucking issue. But the thing I keep coming back to, and the thing that keeps just irritating the Christ out of me, is that these people have this mentality of, I'm being discriminated against by being told the truth. And it's not fair that I don't get the same benefits as these other people do. And it's really not the case. You're not being discriminated against. Your doctor is not trying to hurt your feelings by bringing you up to speed on what your health situation is. And you should not be entitled to sue him because he missed something, because your condition made it undetectable or uncommon or unnoticeable because you're already suffering from so many other side effects. Speaking as a person who is a bigger size, I am well aware of the impact of being overweight on how your body functions. I am in pain a lot of the time, which is something you learn to live with, so you start not noticing little changes that could be indicators in a healthier sized person. And yes, I'm saying healthier because after you reach a certain point, like I said, all that extra weight, your joints start hurting all the time. Your internal organs start working harder to support your mass, because it's not a condition that we are, up until a few generations ago, being like really fat was an amazing accomplishment, because most people were not in a position to pull that off. Whether it was because they didn't have access to enough food or they were too busy working their asses off doing physical things. Our society has changed. Our abilities to get things has changed. Our caloric intake has changed. What we are eating has changed, and not necessarily for the better. The problem is the human body hasn't had time to keep up with those changes. We are not evolved enough to accommodate a higher caloric intake without as much energy in a healthy manner. And like, for my size, my blood work is amazing. My cholesterol's fine. I don't have clogged arteries or any of that shit. I'm only like I'm on the handshake side of being diabetic, but for somebody my size and in my family history, I have a bunch of skinny ass uncles that are all diabetic. So the fact that I'm not is like a minor miracle in and of itself. But ultimately, you can't claim you're being discriminated against because the truth hurts your feelings. You're not being discriminated against. You can't say it's not fair that I have to pay more for my shirts when you use 1 yard of material to make a shirt for a medium and you use 4 yards of material to make a 5X. You're not being discriminated against. You're paying for what you're getting. And that's that's the attitude that's the problem. That's the mindset that is so potentially dangerous for people to be getting into and for people to be hopping on board. And the fact that there is a vocal growing movement around this shit, just, again, it's a departure from common sense. It's getting away from using your fucking head and thinking critically and thinking logically. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you see a fat person at the buffet, mind your fucking business. If you see a fat person and you're a doctor and you're trying to warn them about your health, that's an entirely different thing. You should be allowed to speak up and say, hey, look, here's the deal. If you don't lose some weight, your heart's going to shut down, your kidneys are going to shut down, and you're going to fucking die a slow, horrible, painful fucking death. And, realistically, that's just how it is. You're not being shamed when a medical professional tells you that killing yourself is not good for you. You're not being discriminated against because you have to pay for the extra material to make your clothes. If you're not happy about it, do something about it. If you can't do it on your own, find help. There are people out there that are understanding, that are supportive, that will encourage you. And if you are a skinny or a toned or healthy or average or normal sized person, and you see some big fat person in the gym working there, sweating their asses off, lifting minimal amounts of weights, they're in the gym, they're working out, they're sweating, they're trying to change. For the love of everything that's reasonable, don't be a dick about it. Just let them be. Encourage them. Tell them good jobs without being invasive. Maybe they don't want to be bothered. Just, be cool. Be decent. And for now, I guess that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms. At I Had to Say It podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.